Charting Toward Intimacy covers mature topics. Listener discretion is advised. It can be so easy to complain about all of the ways that our husband is really difficult to love, all of the things that we wish he did, all of the things that we've asked him to do that he doesn't do. Today, we're actually going to flip the spotlight around and look at ourselves. What are the things that we're doing that our husband wishes we weren't doing, or the things that he's asked us that we're not doing? This is going to be a tough episode to listen to, but I assure you, it will absolutely transform your marriage and your sex life if you listen to and take heart what we are talking about in today's episode. Welcome to Charting Toward Intimacy, the sex and intimacy podcast for Catholic women. My name is Ellen Holloway. I'm a Catholic speaker and coach who specializes in sex and marital intimacy, and I am on a mission to help you actually enjoy and desire good, holy sex with your spouse. Joining me today is my amazing semi-regular co-host, Kathleen Chavanis. So Kathleen, did you know that you're really hard to love?
That's really funny because I do know that, yeah. I'm not going to tell you I am easy to love. In fact, it's funny because it's a very regular thing said in my house by my husband that he says he doesn't say I'm hard to love. He says, let me love you.
Or
let them love you. He says that to me all the time, that I don't accept love easily. Yeah, so I do know that. You're also hard to love, though.
I am. Oh man, I know I'm so hard to love. It was so funny when I mentioned this topic like just a few minutes ago before we pressed record. Kathleen was like, "Yeah, let's talk about it."
I have lots of examples of why this is true. Oh yeah.
All right,
and my husband will see the title of this and he will laugh out loud. Just be like, Yep, they're finally catching on.
They finally figured it out. All right, so ladies, we're talking really directly to the ladies. I mean, this is a women's podcast, but like I know that there are lots of husbands and sometimes some priests and things that listen to it. But like, ladies, we are really talking to you. You are really hard to love. And it's just important that we remember that, because so often we'll be like thinking about our marriage, or we'll be thinking about our sex life, and we're like, why can't my husband just do X, Y, Z? I've asked him to do this and this and this. I've told him 100 times. Why can't he just see what is the problem here, right? And so you're like, oh, my husband's so hard to love. You think that. He's so hard to love. We need to remember that you are really hard to love too.
If not more.
If not more. Because ladies, what? We are so fickle. We're just like,
girl, yes.
We want this, and then we want this. And we want, and then we don't know what we want, right? Our husband, here's the thing, is guys love it when you can give them a list of like what to do. Their brains thrive on that kind of thing. I'm not saying that your husband is like a toddler, but like in that way, in that small, tiny way, your husband is like a toddler. Toddlers really love being given like, this is what you can do. This is what you need to do, right?
Practical.
Your husband loves that. And, but our brains don't work that way. Like our female brains they're designed differently. And so that means that when we butt up a male and a female, we've got these like differences in biology that make it really hard to love each other. And you're doing things that make you hard to love. You are nitpicking. You are beating around the bush. You are complaining. You are like, I mean, the list could go on and on. And I'm not trying to like trash talk you, because I'm doing all these things too.
We all do.
We are really hard to love. And it is so important for us to remember that. And so that we don't get into this like this zone of just kind of in our mind, like kind of like hating on our husband
Yes.
for not being exactly the way that we're thinking he should be.
Yeah.
And like recognizing that like we always need to work on ourselves as well.
Yes.
And it's okay. It's okay to like request things of your husband. It's okay to hold him to a standard, right? Like your job as his wife is to get him to heaven, right? Is to bring him to heaven, right? So if there are things that like, it's okay to expect things of him. But what's not okay and what's hurting you, and this is okay, now we're finally landing the plane after like 5 minutes. What's hurting you is like how you're thinking about it and how that is affecting the way that you show up in your marriage and particularly in your sex life, right? So if you're just constantly thinking like, oh, this guy's not listening to me, he's not, he doesn't care about me. Like, well, that's a painful thought. But I think so many of us think that when our husband doesn't do something that we want him to do, we think, oh, he doesn't care about me. Oh, he doesn't love me. If he loved me, he would do this other thing. And like, that's not true. It's really, honestly, that like your husband wants to please you. He wants to make you happy. And you're really hard to make happy. You're really hard to please. And you have the ability to like actually change the way that you think about things that can help you show up better in your marriage, in your sex life, and really just honestly improve things without your husband even changing.
Yeah. And I think another thing that can be really, really helpful, other than just changing our mind frame around our husbands, is really pinpointing the things in us that are hard to love, like really, truly assessing just like the areas of our hearts that are maybe a little bit hardened or a little bit fickle, or that we just don't quite understand ourselves, which I'm going to be honest, I think that in Catholic circles, especially, right? Or I won't say just Catholic, but like in really religious circles, right? Especially for married couples, especially young married couples that have waited until marriage, this idea of like having preferences, particularly in your sexual relationship, is scary and new. And we don't really know a lot about it, right? So it's like, I know that this is something that we deal with, right? That's like, we'll have like, conversations either about like the problem areas of our marriage or the problem areas of our sex life or whatever it is. And my husband's always so good. And he's like, I will do anything for you to like make you comfortable, to make you happy, to like, he does, like the man breaks his back. Just keep me like regulated and sane and
well, yeah, and
but anyway, but
like,
so
most husbands just want to make
they
us
just
happy.
need to know,
but we have to help them,
right? And that's the problem that I have, is that he'll ask me, what do you want in this situation? Like, what would your preference be? What would you rather I do? Like, what can I do to make you feel comfortable, or whatever? And it's always like, bro, I don't know.
I actually don't know.
I'm sorry. I just don't know. And so like, that's not to say that like, oh, we'll figure it out. Like, because obviously it's not that simple. And I think that's something that we really need to take to prayer above all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, Lord, help me to understand. Like, help me to know myself. Help me to know what I do want. Help me to know how we can work together better, right? But there is an honesty that we need to have with ourselves that like, yeah, girl, you're kind of difficult. Like, you are. Like, I am. And I'll say this too. And again, this is all just my personal experience, right? Is that sometimes when I very clearly see how difficult I am. Like, that's not something I struggle with. I am more than happy to be honest about how difficult I am. But then, but then what happens?
As you've been talking, I'm just like going through my brain. I'm like, oh, yeah.
You're like,
no,
yeah.
I'm like, I can just make a nice long list of all the things I do.
Exactly. But and while that's good, like all virtue is found like in the balance, right? Like we can never go to one extreme or another. So in a similar way, like while it's important to recognize how difficult we are to love, it's also very important that we not take it to an extreme of self-deprecation. Because
ooh, yes.
that is where I struggle, right? I see my faults and I see that how I'm difficult. And then I just think to myself, like Satan just kind of weaves his way in through that insecurity. And he says, no one can ever really love you like that. Right? Like,
Yeah.
you're too hard. You're too difficult. You notice this about yourself. Imagine what your husband must think about you. Right? Like, so we have to find that balance of like desiring perfection while also remembering our worth. Right?
Yes.
And remembering our value and our goodness that we do bring. And ladies, I am telling you, I struggle so hard with that. So hard. And
I'm so glad that you brought this up because I think this is so important is we have this pendulum swing that we can do from like, I'm actually perfect and it's all my husband's fault. Like this is a mode that we can get into, right? If he would just do XYZ, if he would just listen, if he would, whatever, right? Then our marriage would be fine. And then we've got this pendulum swing to, oh my gosh, look at all of these ways that I am hurting our relationship, all these different ways that I'm harming it. And like what you said, like, right, virtue lies in the in between of those pendulum swings. Like, it's not that it's all our husband's fault, and it's not that it's all our fault.
right.
It's that we need to both recognize the goodness of our husband and recognize his dignity and respect him and love him and think good thoughts about him. I feel like I've been on this kick lately.
You
about
have
how,
been.
like,
It's
you
true.
just need to think good thoughts.
Yeah. But it's so true because I think that like we're in a culture where almost like husband bashing is just like the norm.
Oh my gosh.
And I will admit that I fall prey to it a lot, right? Because it's just like,
It's
oh yeah, you
easy.
get amongst
It's really easy.
You get amongst your girlfriends and you're just kind of like, oh my gosh, my husband and the toilet seat and the laundry next to the hamper and the like all the things, which like, let's be honest, like I'm not good at that stuff either. But all those little things, and then all of a sudden you start like you're just going back and forth and it doesn't feel wrong. It just feels like, oh, well, yeah, when you put two people in a room together and, tell them to live life forever and ever, like these little like, annoyances are going to crop up. But it's so easy and quick to turn into a husband bashing session where we are directly going against that vow that we took to love and honor. Right. So it is something that we have to like really, really keep ourselves in check with. Here's another thing, though, if I can switch gears a little bit. Another way that, again, based on personal experience, that we, I think, need to recognize that we can be difficult to love is in acts of service. If you're anything like me, you maybe are a stay-at-home mom, or maybe you're not a stay-at-home mom, but still like me. You feel like the responsibility of that, like the home is your job, right? Like it is your job to keep it tidy. It is your job to get the meals made. It is your job to do all of these things. Now, obviously, it's not to say that our husbands can't help at all, but I'll say personally, I've been dealing for several years now with like constant overwhelm. Feeling like I can't keep up, like I can't do the things, And my husband, because he is a really, really, really good man, is always asking, how can I help you? How can I, like, let me go do grocery shopping? Let me take it off your plate. Like, let me do this. Let me do this. And there's a piece of me that feels like I'm sending him to work all day, right, to provide for our family. And then he's coming home and he's taking my share too, because I just can't figure it out. And I just can't deal. And I'm so overwhelmed with like homeschooling someone or just giving the toddler time or all the running around and like all these things that I'm missing. Like I just can't manage all of the things. And then I say, no. It's fine. I'll do it. I'll figure it out. I'll get it. And he says, why don't you just let me? And it's like, no,
yeah.
because it's my job. Like, that's me. Like, you did your job today. Now this is my job, you know? And he'll say, let me love you. And it's really hard to do. Like, it's really hard to not feel like anyone be like, yeah, go ahead, go to the grocery store. But for me, and if you're anything like me, it feels like you're carrying double the weight because I just can't deal. And so it's pride that gets in the way.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's for so much of us. Like, our pride makes us really hard to love. Because it's like, no, this should be me.
The problem with that pride thing is that we feel like justified in that, right? So like that example you gave was so great, right? We're like, no, this is, in order for me to be a good wife, in order for me to be a good homemaker in this example, like I need to be the one to do this. And like, husband, I'm actually loving you by doing my job, right? And it's wrong. That's wrong, right?
Right. Yeah, that's exactly how it feels. Yeah, is like I'm not loving my family to the best of my ability if I can't do this. Mm-hmm. That's how it feels, right?
And that's all self-reliance. I'm not trying to bash you. I'm just like,
no,
I think so many of us
have
been through this exact scenario, right?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
That's self-reliance. It's, you know, and pride of what you said, right? And like that is not. It's not living up to our vocation. It's not fulfilling our vocation. I know I have this like that similar kind of a situation. Whenever I am pregnant in that first trimester, I am like so tired. Like I just can't even fathom how tired I am. And I kind of forget every time. And it was so funny this last time that I was pregnant, my husband was like, you're pregnant. Like, you're so tired. You're pregnant.
Really pregnant.
I'm not pregnant. And I was.
Funny. That's hysterical. I get the same way.
But he knew because I was so exhausted. And it's like I sleep in and then I go to sleep at like 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Like he's taking on everything from 7 p.m. on. Like that's a lot of things. That's all the kids. That's cleaning up. Like that's like clean up the kitchen. Like a lot of times it ends up he would get home and like I'm just like there's no dinner. I don't know. I don't know.
That happens
to tell you
on a regular basis. It's like dinner.
You know, it's funny. I'm in like a zone right now where I'm like getting dinner on the table, and our house is not clean, but like I'm getting dinner on the table, and I'm just like.
I wish I was in that zone. I struggle with that zone. Struggle with that a lot. Yeah, like it was literally 2 days ago. My husband, one of my kids had horseback lessons right after school, so I was there doing that. There's something else I forget cropped up, but my husband went to work, came home, did work on his truck, and then came inside and cleaned up the whole downstairs. Like got it ready for the robot vacuum to go, you know? But so it's just like, you know, he worked like he didn't stop all day, you know? And like, it was like, yeah, could I have spent part of the day like straightening up the downstairs and like getting things tidy and clean so that he didn't have to do that much? Like, yeah, but I didn't like, and he's always so good because he says, you chose, like there's always going to be a million things to do. You just have to choose what's best in the moment, right? And today you chose to spend time with the kids, and that was good. So I don't care that I have to come home and clean it up, right? But like, I don't know. There's the pride in me that's always just like, I should have done more so he didn't have to do so much. But I also have my limits as a person, right? And so we are just so hard.
We're so
Our
hard
brains are just this constant dichotomy, this like back and forth and pulling in both directions. And, you know, I think the whole point is, yes, like we just have to remember that we have to give ourselves grace. We have to give our husbands grace. And we just have to pray and aim for it. I want to say perfection, but it's not even really perfection. Like we just have to pray for the grace to just be in this stage of life, and like gracefully is what I want to say, which like, but you know what I mean? We just have to pray for the grace to just accept where we are in life and yeah, like aim to love each other through those faults, I think, like how do we do that?
Yeah. It's so funny that you're using the word grace so much. And so I'm taking a New Testament scripture class right now for my master's degree.
Yeah.
I just finished Old Testament. It was so good. Oh my gosh. Like these classes are so good. Anyway, but we're going through Luke right now. And, in Luke, we have like, hail full of grace. Right. And like the translation is tough because English kind of hampers, what that phrase really means.
Right.
And it's like, we actually don't really know what grace is. Right.
Right.
Like grace doesn't like mean something. It's just like, I don't know. It's like a faith word, right? Grace,
right.
God's grace. So like, what is grace? Grace is that which causes rejoicing. And so like a better translation of hail full of grace is rejoice. You're full of that which causes rejoicing. So you should rejoice. And grace is, so that which causes rejoicing. What is that? It's God's love. It's God's life. And it's God's favor. And so like when we're talking about that, you need to give yourself grace and you need to give your husband grace, right? This isn't like a self-reliant thing that we're talking about. Right. This is where like, when you give yourself grace, when we say that phrase, it's that you're accepting God's love and God's favor on you and God's life in you. And that you are recognizing and accepting and rejoicing in God's love and life and favor in your husband as well. And like God has, some theologians talk about how like God has already like given us all the grace. And like it's just that we need to like unlock it. We just need to like open up to it. So, sometimes that prayer of like, oh Lord, give me the grace for this it's like kind of not technically correct, right? It's more like, God, let me actually use the grace that you've already given me for this situation.
True.
But I think it's fine. I think it's fine when we like pray, God, give me the grace for this, right? He knows what we're talking about. But like, let's remember like what grace even is. God's love, God's life, God's favor. I love that phrase, God's favor, right? Like God has given you his favor. Like he favors you. He loves you. And so it's like recognizing that in our husband and then like recognizing that in ourselves and then just really like shining that mirror back on ourselves. Like when we start nitpicking all these things that we want our husband to be doing differently, let's like pause right there. Like when you catch yourself doing that, when you're like, oh, just wish my husband would do this. Stop right there. Like stop your thoughts and go, okay, I'm going to find one thing about myself that I can do better for the rest of the day. Like, because I want my husband to do something different, and this is kind of harkening back to the episode we had a couple of weeks ago, episode 218, what if I'm giving more effort than my husband? Like,
yeah, that's right.
In the same way, right? We're like, shine the light back on yourself.
Yeah.
And like, do something to better yourself and to like lead yourself closer to God. And like, that's going to be growing in virtue ourselves.
Yeah.
And like, guys, virtuous people they're just so efficacious. Like,
True.
I think hopefully we've all had like the opportunity to just like meet a really like grace-filled, virtuous person. And it's just like, you're just around them and you're like, I just want to be around you more. And I want to like do more of what you do. I have this friend that I just like, we don't see them very often. And I'm like, I want to see you more often. Like, I want to be around you more often because like, I can tell I change when I'm around you. Right. And so like, that's something that we can also, you know, again, without bashing our husband with the thought, because husband bashing in your head is just as bad as a husband bashing at coffee with your friends. It's
Very
just
true.
as bad, guys.
Very true.
It's hurting your soul. So without husband bashing, we can have this thought of, if I become more virtuous, as I become more virtuous with God's grace, my husband will follow suit. And like that can be a really, I don't know, comforting kind of thought, I think sometimes too, especially when things are bad. Like when things are so bad and you're just like, why can't he just do this like one thing? You know, maybe it's something specific that you have asked for and he's just like not doing it.
It's
that can
like,
be so hard.
Yeah, it's, as you're talking, I'm thinking of the Bible verse that says, don't point out the splinter in someone else's eye before removing the beam in your own, right? And it's like, yeah, that's what we do. It's like, oh, my husband just blah, you know, like, why can't he blah? But it's like, we need to turn back, look at the beam in our own eye. Just be like, okay, you know what? Because another thing my husband always says, and a lot of the times he says it in relation to like some of these like hard marriage conversations that we have, you know, where he's just like, I just got to a point where I had to realize the only thing I have control over is myself and what I do and how I react, right? Like I can't control you in any way, shape or form. I can't control what you do. I can't control how you behave or what you say or how you act, but I can do it for myself. And I think that's exactly what we have to accept, right? We cannot change our husbands. Like we cannot.
Yeah.
I mean, they always say never get married thinking you could change the other person.
Yeah.
Worst thing you can do, right? Because we can't. Like we just don't have the power. The only thing we can do is control ourselves. And so if we turn around, we focus on the beam in our own eye, we make that effort, right? Then there's so many times that effort gets noticed by our spouse. I know that I always see when my husband does it. I always see when he does it. And then I always turn back to myself and I say, wow, I should do the same, right? That's the whole point of this marriage thing is like bringing each other to heaven, like drawing each other towards perfection, right? Which is God. But by focusing on you and yourself and what you can control, allowing your spouse to witness that and to be called higher just through your witness. That's what it's all about, man. That's what we need to do.
Yeah. I want to end on like one additional thought is something that can be really cathartic for you is to actually apologize to your husband for your flaws, for the things that make you hard to love. Like, you know, and it can be like out of the blue. It doesn't have to be like related to something specific, but just like, hey, or like, especially if you notice something was kind of getting bad, like in the past week, you can be like, hey, I'm really sorry. I realized I've been like hypercritical of you the past week and I'm sorry. And I'm trying to work on it. Yeah. And like, that is such a like grace-filled moment.
Yeah.
To be able to like recognize that, but then also, you know, you can like affirm your husband of like, hey, I'm working on this. Cause he's noticed the things that make you hard to love. He's totally noticed them. And if you can, you know, recognize those and apologize and like tell him that you're really trying to work on them, that can just bring so much like love and goodness like into the moment. And it can also, again, and this is not the point of this, because the point is like helping you grow in virtue.
Right.
But
yes.
You doing that is naturally going to make him reflect on himself. Because when you receive an apology from someone, your whole body relaxes, like
Yeah.
attention relaxes, and you're actually able to like have more clarity
Yes.
in thought, right? So like you apologizing to your husband is almost automatically going to make him go, ooh, do I have something I need to apologize for?
Right. Yeah.
And
Very true.
he may not apologize for something, right? But it's going to make him reflect,
Mhm.
even if it's for like a half a second, which is excellent.
Right. Yep. So true.
All right. So love your husband, but recognize you're really hard to love too. And we can all grow in virtue there.
We can all work on it.
Thanks so much for listening. If you're ready to stop feeling confused or discouraged about sex and finally understand how God designed your body for real, beautiful pleasure, you need to check out the Orgasm Course for Catholic women. I'll teach you the tools and the mindset you need to experience the intimacy you were made for, all deeply rooted in Catholic Church teaching. Head over to vinesandfullbloom.com/orgasm, and I'll see you inside.